Bad news for Verstappen as his race engineer joins Aston Martin. Red Bull reveals surprising progress for 2025, and Lewis makes big changes for 2026. Let's get into the latest F1 news. The Formula One paddock is buzzing with shocking news that could completely reshape the championship landscape for the upcoming season. What if I told you that one of the most successful partnerships in recent F1 history might be about to end in the most unexpected way possible? The man who helped guide Max Verstappen to 4 world championships could be making a move that nobody saw coming. We're talking about Gianpiero Lambiase, the voice in Verstappen's ear during some of the most incredible racing moments we've ever witnessed. This isn't just any engineer switching teams. This is the breaking apart of one of Formula One's most iconic partnerships, and the destination might surprise you even more than the departure itself. For nearly a decade, Lambiase has been the steady voice guiding Verstappen through wheel-to-wheel battles, strategic decisions, and championship-defining moments. Their radio exchanges have become legendary among fans, filled with dry humor, tactical brilliance, and genuine emotion. But recent events suggest this extraordinary partnership might be reaching its conclusion. The first major clue came during the season finale in Abu Dhabi. As the checkered flag waved and Verstappen's championship hopes slipped away by just 2 points, cameras captured something remarkable. Lambiase, usually composed and professional on the pit wall, was visibly emotional. Some observers reported seeing him in tears as the reality of missing out on a 5th consecutive championship hit home. That emotional display immediately sparked speculation throughout the paddock. Was this simply disappointment over losing the title, or was there something deeper happening? The timing felt significant, almost like a farewell moment that suggested Abu Dhabi might have been Lambiase's final race as Verstappen's race engineer. Initially, many assumed any departure would involve a promotion within Red Bull Racing. After all, talented individuals like Lambiase are exactly the type of personnel teams fight to retain. Perhaps a move to a senior technical role or strategic position within the organization seemed logical. However, the truth appears far more dramatic than anyone anticipated. According to emerging reports, Lambiase has been in discussions with Aston Martin about joining the Silverstone-based team in a senior leadership capacity. We're not talking about another race engineering role here. The conversations reportedly center around positions at team principal or chief executive level, representing a massive career leap for the experienced engineer. This potential move becomes even more intriguing when you consider Lambiase's history with the organization. He actually began his Formula One journey with this team back in 2005, when they competed under the Jordan banner. It would represent a homecoming of sorts, returning to where his F1 career first took flight. During his previous stint with the team, competing under various names including Force India, Lambiase worked as race engineer for drivers including Vitantonio Liuzzi, Paul Di Resta, and Sergio Perez. His departure to Red Bull in 2015 initially saw him paired with Daniel Kvyat, before Verstappen's promotion from the junior Toro Rosso team created the partnership that would define both their careers. The timing of these discussions coincides perfectly with major changes happening at Aston Martin. The team recently announced that Adrian Newey, the legendary aerodynamicist who also played a crucial role in Verstappen's Red Bull success, will assume the team principal position for the upcoming season. This creates a fascinating opportunity for Lambiase to reunite with another key figure from the championship-winning Red Bull setup. Newey's appointment came as part of a broader organizational restructuring. Andy Cowell, his predecessor as team principal, transitions to a new role as chief strategy officer, overseeing the complex 3-way relationship between Aston Martin, their new engine partner Honda, and fuel supplier Aramco. This reshuffling creates space for additional senior appointments, potentially including Lambiase. What makes this situation particularly interesting is Newey's own comments about his new role. The 67-year-old designer has emphasized that car development remains his primary focus, stating his determination not to dilute that core responsibility. His suggestion that he might delegate certain traditional team principal duties opens the door for someone like Lambiase to handle operational aspects while Newey concentrates on technical development. The potential departure would represent a significant blow to Verstappen, who has already lost several key members of his inner circle recently. Helmut Marko, the long-serving senior advisor known for his close relationship with the Dutch driver, announced his departure from Red Bull at the end of this season. Additionally, Matt Kauler, Verstappen's #1 mechanic, is joining the incoming Audi team led by former Red Bull sporting director Jonathan Wheatley. These departures highlight a broader trend of talent exodus from Red Bull Racing. The team that dominated Formula One for 4 consecutive seasons is seeing key personnel attracted to new opportunities elsewhere. While this natural evolution happens in all successful organizations, the concentration of departures from Verstappen's immediate support network is particularly noteworthy. Should Lambiase depart, Red Bull would need to identify a replacement capable of maintaining the high standards expected by their star driver. Simon Rennie, who previously served as Daniel Ricciardo's race engineer at Red Bull, represents the most likely internal candidate. Rennie has maintained a factory-based role in recent years, but demonstrated his ongoing capabilities by stepping in during Lambiase's absence at the Austrian and Belgian races this past season. Verstappen's own tribute to Lambiase following the Abu Dhabi finale provides insight into their relationship beyond the professional realm. The 4-time champion described his race engineer as more than just a colleague, calling him a friend with whom he has shared countless emotional moments and fantastic achievements. This personal connection makes any potential separation even more significant. The emotional tribute continued with Verstappen acknowledging the challenging nature of the past season, both professionally and personally. He praised Lambiase's passion and dedication, particularly highlighting his engineer's refusal to give up during difficult periods. This mutual respect and friendship developed over nearly a decade makes their potential separation particularly poignant. Interestingly, Verstappen himself was briefly linked with a potential move to Aston Martin earlier this year, despite his contract with Red Bull running through 2028. While Aston Martin quickly dismissed these rumors, confirming their commitment to Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. The speculation demonstrated the team's ambitious intent to attract top talent across all areas. The potential arrival of both Newey and Lambiase would represent a significant coup for Aston Martin's championship aspirations. Having 2 key architects of Red Bull's recent success could provide the expertise needed to challenge for victories and championships in the new regulatory era beginning in 2026. Aston Martin's partnership with Honda as their new engine supplier adds another layer of intrigue to this situation. The Japanese manufacturer previously powered Red Bull during their earlier championship-winning periods, creating additional connections between the organizations. This technical partnership could benefit from personnel familiar with maximizing Honda's power unit capabilities. The broader context of these potential moves reflects Formula One's increasingly competitive landscape for top talent. As teams invest heavily in new facilities, technical partnerships, and championship ambitions, the battle for the best engineers, strategists, and leaders intensifies across the paddock. For Formula One fans, the potential breaking up of the Verstappen-Lambiase partnership marks the end of an era. Their radio communications have provided some of the sport's most memorable moments, from tactical discussions during crucial battles to emotional exchanges following victories and defeats. These authentic human moments have helped define modern Formula One's appeal. Whether this potential move materializes remains uncertain, with reports suggesting negotiations are ongoing without a final agreement. However, the mere possibility highlights the dynamic nature of Formula One's personnel market and the ambitious plans of teams like Aston Martin as they pursue championship success. The coming weeks should provide clarity on whether one of Formula One's most successful partnerships will indeed come to an end, potentially reshaping both Red Bull's and Aston Martin's futures in the process. The ramifications of such a move would extend far beyond individual careers, potentially influencing championship battles for years to come. What happens when one of the most dominant drivers in Formula One history gets his first taste of a completely new engine that could define his future? Max Verstappen just heard the Red Bull Ford power unit fire up for the first time, and his reaction might surprise you. But there's so much more to this story than just engine noise. We're about to dive into one of the most crucial moments in modern Formula One history. The 2026 season isn't just another year of racing. It's a complete revolution that will reshape everything we know about the sport. New chassis regulations, dramatically different engines, and power units that could completely shuffle the competitive order. And right at the center of it all is a partnership that nobody saw coming just a few years ago. Red Bull, the team that's dominated recent seasons, made a decision that seemed almost reckless. They chose to become engine manufacturers for the first time in their history. But they didn't go it alone. They partnered with Ford, an American automotive giant that's been absent from Formula One for decades. This isn't just about building an engine. This is about two companies betting their reputations on a project that could either propel them to glory or leave them struggling at the back of the grid. Think about what's at stake here. Max Verstappen, a four-time world champion, has his entire future tied to this engine's performance. If it's competitive, he could continue his championship reign. If it fails, we might see one of the greatest drivers of our generation fighting for points instead of victories. The pressure is immense, and everyone knows it. Mark Rushbrook, Ford's global racing director, recently provided an update that has the entire Formula One community buzzing. He confirmed that their engine development is proceeding according to plan, but there's something fascinating about how he describes their current situation. They've hit all their initial development milestones, which is encouraging news. But now they're entering the most critical phase of the entire project. The focus has shifted to something that might sound technical but is absolutely crucial for driver performance. They're working on calibration and drivability. This isn't just about raw power output. It's about how the engine responds to the driver's inputs, how it delivers power through corners, and how it integrates with the car's hybrid systems. These are the details that separate championship-winning engines from also-rans. What makes this moment even more significant is the timeline they're working with. The first test is scheduled for late January at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. This isn't just any test session. It's a behind-closed-doors evaluation that will determine whether 3 years of intensive development work has been successful. Rushbrook admits to feeling nervous about this moment, and you can understand why. The engineering challenge they've faced is staggering. Formula One engines in 2026 will operate under completely new regulations. The hybrid systems are more powerful, the fuel specifications are different, and the performance requirements have evolved significantly. Red Bull powertrains, despite being new to engine manufacturing, had to master all of these elements while working with Ford to ensure their partnership produces competitive results. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Despite all the computer simulations, laboratory testing, and theoretical calculations, nobody really knows how this engine will perform until it hits the racetrack. Rushbrook acknowledges this uncertainty, explaining that their simulation tools are excellent for design work and their laboratories are perfect for hardware development. But real-world track testing reveals things that no amount of preparation can predict. The testing schedule itself tells us how seriously everyone is taking this moment. After that initial private test in Barcelona, there will be 2 more testing sessions in Bahrain during February. These will be open to the public and media, meaning the entire world will get to see how the Red Bull-Ford partnership stacks up against established manufacturers like Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. Now, let's talk about Max Verstappen's reaction to hearing this engine for the first time. When he shared his thoughts on Red Bull's internal podcast, his response was both honest and revealing. He described the sound as good and crisp, which might seem like a simple observation, but it actually tells us quite a bit about the engine's character. Verstappen made an interesting comparison when he noted that the engine doesn't sound like the old V10 units from Formula One's past. Those engines were legendary for their distinctive high-pitched scream that many fans still consider the pinnacle of racing engine sound. The current hybrid power units sound completely different, more muted and complex due to their turbocharging and energy recovery systems. But there's something significant about Verstappen's positive reaction. As a driver who's experienced championship-winning machinery, he understands what competitive engines should sound like. His approval suggests that the Red Bull Ford unit has the acoustic characteristics associated with well-tuned, powerful engines. The partnership between Red Bull and Ford represents more than just technical collaboration. It's a strategic alliance that brings together Red Bull's recent Formula One success with Ford's massive automotive heritage and engineering resources. Ford's return to Formula One as an engine partner marks their first involvement in the sport's top category since the early 2000s. For Red Bull, becoming an engine manufacturer was a massive gamble. They'd previously relied on other suppliers, including Renault and Honda, for their power units. Taking control of engine development gives them complete autonomy over their technical package, but it also means accepting full responsibility if things go wrong. The 2026 regulations represent the biggest technical overhaul Formula One has seen in years. The chassis regulations are changing dramatically, with new aerodynamic concepts and different car proportions. The engine regulations are equally revolutionary, with increased electrical power output and modified fuel specifications. This creates opportunities for new manufacturers to challenge the established order. Red Bull Powertrains chose Ford as their partner for several strategic reasons. Ford brings decades of racing experience across multiple motorsport categories, from NASCAR to endurance racing. Their engineering expertise in areas like combustion technology, materials science, and electronic systems provides valuable support for the Formula One project. The development process has required unprecedented collaboration between Red Bull's existing technical team and Ford's engineering specialists. They've had to integrate different corporate cultures, technical philosophies, and development methodologies to create a unified approach to engine design. Looking ahead to the testing program, the results will determine not just the engine's immediate competitiveness, but also the long-term trajectory of both companies' Formula One involvement. Strong performance could establish Red Bull Ford as a major force in the new regulatory era. Poor results could force significant changes to their technical approach or partnership structure. For Max Verstappen personally, this engine's performance will significantly influence his career decisions. He's already achieved enormous success with Red Bull, but maintaining that level of performance depends heavily on having competitive machinery. If the Red Bull Ford package proves successful, it could extend his championship winning period for several more years. The broader Formula One landscape in 2026 will be fascinating to watch. Audi is entering as another new engine manufacturer, while established suppliers like Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren are all developing their own interpretations of the new regulations. The competitive balance could shift dramatically based on how successfully each manufacturer adapts to the technical challenges. As we approach those crucial January tests, the anticipation throughout the Formula One community continues building. 3 years of development work, millions of dollars in investment, and the reputations of 2 major corporations all come down to how this engine performs when it finally hits the racetrack. Max Verstappen's positive initial reaction provides encouragement, but the real test is still to come. The 2026 season promises to be one of the most unpredictable and exciting in Formula One history, and it all starts with that first engine fire-up in Barcelona. Picture this: a 7-time world champion, arguably the greatest driver Formula One has ever seen, finishing his first season with Ferrari without a single podium. Not one. For Lewis Hamilton, 2025 was supposed to be the fairy tale beginning of his legendary partnership with the prancing horse. Instead, it became a nightmare that had fans questioning everything they thought they knew about both driver and team. But here's where this story gets really interesting. While everyone else was focusing on the disasters of 2025, Hamilton and Ferrari were quietly orchestrating something much bigger behind the scenes, something that could completely change the trajectory of Formula One itself. What I'm about to reveal will shock you about just how deep Hamilton's involvement goes in Ferrari's 2026 project, and why this seemingly catastrophic first year might actually be the most brilliant strategic move we've seen in modern motorsport. Let's start with the brutal reality of what Hamilton endured in 2025. This wasn't just a bad season. This was historically terrible. Only twice in his entire career had Hamilton gone winless in a season. and 2025 marked his first year ever without standing on a podium. For a driver who's accustomed to fighting for championships, this was uncharted territory of disappointment. The Ferrari SF25 was simply not competitive. Apart from one sprint race victory in China, which was later overshadowed by a double disqualification due to technical violations, the car never showed championship-winning pace. Even more concerning was Hamilton's struggle to match his teammate Charles Leclerc's performance throughout the season. The British driver, known for his adaptability and racecraft, found himself genuinely challenged by Ferrari's package in ways he hadn't experienced in years. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Instead of wallowing in disappointment or making excuses, Hamilton made a decision that would define not just his future, but potentially Ferrari's return to championship glory. He became the driving force behind Ferrari's early pivot to the 2026 regulations. The timing of this decision reveals everything about Hamilton's championship mentality. Rather than desperately clinging to hopes for 2025 improvements, he recognized the mathematical reality early in the season. Ferrari wasn't going to challenge for the title, and continuing to pour resources into a fundamentally flawed car would only hurt their chances for the future. Hamilton's role in this strategic shift cannot be overstated. He didn't just suggest focusing on 2026, he actively campaigned for it within Ferrari's walls. In his own words, he was the one pushing hardest for this transition, understanding that falling behind other teams in developing the new regulation cars would be catastrophic for Ferrari's long-term competitiveness. This reveals something profound about Hamilton's approach to his Ferrari chapter. While critics focused on his struggles against Leclerc or the team's overall poor performance, Hamilton was playing a completely different game. He was thinking like a team leader, not just a driver desperate for short-term results. The depth of Hamilton's involvement in Ferrari's 2026 preparations is staggering. This isn't just about showing up to simulator sessions or providing basic feedback. Hamilton has created comprehensive strategic documents throughout the year, analyzing everything from fundamental structural changes the team needs to make to specific technical issues with the current car that should influence future development. These weren't casual conversations or brief emails. Hamilton prepared detailed reports after the first few races, then followed up with additional documents during breaks in the season. Each document addressed different aspects of Ferrari's operation, from organizational improvements to technical specifications for the upcoming regulatory changes. The scope of his feedback reveals a driver who's thinking about Ferrari's success on multiple levels simultaneously. Some of his suggestions focused on immediate issues with the 2025 car that could be addressed for better performance. Others looked at structural adjustments needed within the team's organization to improve their overall competitiveness. Most importantly, he provided extensive input on which elements should carry over to the 2026 car and which needed complete reimagining. Hamilton's hands-on approach extended to direct work with Ferrari's engineering teams. He spent significant time in simulator sessions specifically focused on the 2026 car, providing feedback that would shape the vehicle's fundamental characteristics. His debriefing sessions involved meeting individually with every engineer working on the project, ensuring his insights reached every level of the development process. This level of involvement goes far beyond what most drivers contribute to car development. Hamilton essentially embedded himself as a strategic consultant within Ferrari's operation, leveraging his decades of experience across different teams and regulation changes to guide their approach to the new era. The strategic brilliance of focusing on 2026 becomes clearer when you consider the massive regulatory changes coming to Formula One. The new rules represent the most significant technical shift the sport has seen in years, potentially reshuffling the competitive order completely. Teams that nail these new regulations could dominate for years, while those who get it wrong might struggle to catch up. Hamilton understood that 2025 was already lost for Ferrari, but 2026 represented a clean slate where his experience and Ferrari's resources could combine for devastating effect. By advocating for this early transition, He essentially sacrificed any remaining hopes for 2025 success to maximize their chances of building a championship-winning car for the new regulations. This decision required incredible mental strength and long-term thinking. Most drivers in Hamilton's position would have pushed for continued development of the current car, hoping for improvements that might salvage some pride or momentum. Hamilton chose the harder path of accepting short-term disappointment for long-term strategic advantage. The collaborative relationship between Hamilton and Ferrari's technical team reveals another crucial element of this story. Rather than imposing his will or creating conflict, Hamilton positioned himself as a resource for the engineers to utilize. His approach emphasized supporting their work with insights they couldn't get elsewhere, rather than trying to dictate solutions from a driver's perspective alone. This collaborative dynamic is particularly significant given Ferrari's historically complex relationships with star drivers. The team has sometimes struggled with managing big personalities and integrating driver feedback effectively. Hamilton's approach seems designed to avoid these pitfalls while maximizing his influence on the car's development. His individual meetings with every engineer working on the 2026 project demonstrate a commitment to understanding and supporting the technical process at the deepest level. Rather than providing general feedback that might get filtered or misinterpreted through multiple levels of communication, Hamilton ensured his insights reached the people actually designing and building the car. The psychological impact of Hamilton's strategic approach extends beyond just technical development. By publicly supporting the decision to focus on 2026, even while acknowledging the disappointment of 2025, Hamilton sent a powerful message about his commitment to Ferrari's long-term success over personal short-term gratification. This leadership approach could prove crucial for team morale and unity heading into the new regulatory era. Ferrari's engineers and staff know that their star driver is genuinely invested in the project's success, not just looking for quick fixes or preparing to blame others if things go wrong. Hamilton's willingness to endure criticism for poor 2025 performance while simultaneously working behind the scenes on 2026 preparations shows a level of professional maturity that few athletes in any sport ever achieve. He's essentially sacrificing his reputation in the short term to build something more substantial for the future. The timing of Ferrari's regulatory focus also aligns perfectly with Hamilton's career timeline. At this stage of his career, he likely has only a few more seasons to add to his championship total. Rather than wasting precious time on a car that couldn't win, he's betting everything on making 2026 the year Ferrari returns to championship contention. This gamble carries enormous risks for both Hamilton and Ferrari. If the 2026 car doesn't deliver championship-level performance, Hamilton's Ferrari chapter could be remembered primarily for the disappointment of 2025 rather than any subsequent success. For Ferrari, the pressure to deliver after sacrificing an entire season will be immense. However, the potential rewards are equally massive. Formula One history is filled with examples of teams who nailed new regulations and dominated for years afterward. If Ferrari's early focus on 2026 pays off, Hamilton could find himself with the fastest car on the grid at precisely the moment when his experience and racecraft could make the difference in close championship battles. The strategic coordination between Hamilton and Ferrari also positions them to learn from other teams' mistakes during 2025. While competitors focused on maximizing performance under the current regulations, Ferrari could observe which approaches worked and which didn't, incorporating those lessons into their 2026 development. Looking ahead to the new regulatory era, Hamilton's extensive preparation work could provide Ferrari with advantages that won't become apparent until the first races of 2026. His feedback on simulator work, combined with his suggestions for organizational improvements, might create a foundation for sustained success rather than just short-term competitiveness. The collaboration between Hamilton and Ferrari represents something unique in modern Formula One. A star driver willing to sacrifice immediate gratification for long-term strategic advantage, working with a legendary team desperate to return to championship glory. Their combined desperation and determination could create the perfect storm for 2026 dominance. As we look toward the new season, Hamilton's extensive behind-the-scenes work with Ferrari might just be the secret weapon that transforms both his legacy and Ferrari's future. Sometimes the most important victories happen long before anyone takes the checkered flag. Picture this. Red Bull Racing, the team that dominated Formula One for years with their lightning-fast cars, is about to take on their biggest challenge yet. But here's the twist. They're not just trying to build a faster car anymore. They're building their own engine from scratch, and the Formula One world thinks they're completely insane for trying it. What if I told you that the very team everyone expects to fail spectacularly in 2026 might actually shock the entire motorsport world? What if Red Bull's engine project isn't the disaster waiting to happen that critics claim it is, but instead the most brilliant strategic move in modern Formula One history? Today, we're diving deep into Red Bull's audacious engine program that could completely reshape the power dynamics of Formula One. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some insiders are quietly whispering that Red Bull might not just survive their transition to engine manufacturer, they might actually dominate it. Let's start with the moment that changed everything. When Honda shocked the Formula One world by announcing their withdrawal from the sport after 2025, Red Bull faced a terrifying reality. They had two choices: become a customer team buying engines from their competitors, or do something that seemed absolutely impossible: build their own power units from the ground up. Most teams in Red Bull's position would have chosen the safe route. They would have swallowed their pride, signed a customer deal with Mercedes or Ferrari, and accepted their fate as a second-tier operation. But Red Bull isn't most teams. Instead of backing down, they doubled down on the most ambitious project in their history. Think about the sheer audacity of this decision. Red Bull was essentially saying they could do in a few years what took Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault decades to perfect. They were claiming they could walk into one of the most technically complex arenas in motorsport and immediately compete with manufacturers who had been building Formula One engines since before Red Bull even existed as a team. The motorsport community reacted exactly as you'd expect. Skepticism poured in from every corner of the paddock. Experts lined up to explain why Red Bull's engine project was doomed to fail. The consensus was clear. Red Bull would struggle immensely when their homegrown power units finally hit the track in 2026. And honestly, that skepticism made perfect sense. Building a competitive Formula One engine isn't just about having enough money or determination. It's about understanding incredibly complex thermal dynamics, mastering hybrid energy recovery systems, and perfecting combustion efficiency to levels that push the absolute boundaries of what's physically possible. The established engine manufacturers had massive head starts. Mercedes had been refining their power units since the hybrid era began in 2014. Ferrari had decades of engine-building heritage flowing through their Maranello facilities. Even Renault, despite their recent struggles, had accumulated knowledge and expertise that seemed impossible for Red Bull to match. But here's where the story gets interesting. Over the past several months, something remarkable has been happening behind the scenes at Red Bull's engine facility in Milton Keynes. The skeptical voices that once dominated conversations about Red Bull's engine program are starting to quiet down, replaced by whispers of genuine optimism. Industry insiders who initially dismissed Red Bull's chances are now speaking in hushed, almost surprised tones about what they're hearing from the Red Bull engine program. The transformation in sentiment isn't happening because people want Red Bull to succeed. It's happening because the evidence suggests they actually might. What's driving this shift in perception? It starts with Red Bull's approach to building their engine department. While many expected them to struggle with inexperience, Red Bull took a completely different path. Instead of trying to develop everything internally, they launched what can only be described as the most aggressive talent acquisition campaign in Formula One history. Red Bull didn't just hire a few experienced engineers and hope for the best. They systematically identified the best engine technicians, thermal dynamics experts, and hybrid system specialists from across the paddock and convinced them to join their cause. This wasn't random recruitment. It was strategic warfare conducted in conference rooms and contract negotiations. The scale of this operation is staggering. Red Bull's engine department now employs over 600 people. To put that in perspective, that's larger than many complete Formula One teams. They've essentially built an entire automotive engineering company dedicated solely to creating the perfect Formula One power unit. But numbers alone don't tell the whole story. The quality of talent Red Bull has assembled is what's really turning heads. They've managed to poach key personnel from Mercedes, the very team that's been setting the standard for Formula One engines since the hybrid era began. These aren't junior engineers looking for career advancement. These are the experienced professionals who understand the deepest secrets of competitive engine development. This aggressive recruitment strategy stands in stark contrast to other manufacturers entering Formula One. When Audi announced their engine program, they primarily looked within their existing automotive divisions for talent. While that approach has merit, it lacks the specific Formula One expertise that Red Bull has been accumulating. The most intriguing development in Red Bull's engine program involves their approach to the technical regulations for 2026. Rather than simply trying to copy what successful manufacturers have done before, Red Bull is pursuing innovative solutions that could give them unexpected advantages. One area where Red Bull is pushing boundaries involves thermal expansion technology that could manipulate compression ratios in ways that unlock significant performance gains. This isn't just incremental improvement. It's the kind of creative engineering that could fundamentally change how Formula One engines operate. What makes this development even more significant is that Mercedes is reportedly working on similar concepts. This suggests that Red Bull isn't just following established paths. They're identifying the same cutting-edge opportunities that the most successful engine manufacturer in recent Formula One history is pursuing. The fact that Red Bull is developing parallel solutions to Mercedes indicates something crucial about their engine program. They're not starting from zero and hoping to catch up eventually. They're identifying the same performance opportunities that the best teams see, and they're pursuing those opportunities with equal technical sophistication. But technical innovation alone won't determine Red Bull's success. The real challenge lies in execution, integration, and the countless small details that separate competitive engines from also-rans. This is where Red Bull's recruitment strategy becomes even more important. Having the right people means more than just technical knowledge. It means understanding how to troubleshoot problems that only emerge during actual racing conditions. It means knowing which compromises are acceptable and which ones will cost precious tenths of a second per lap. It means having the experience to make crucial decisions under pressure when championship points are on the line. The engineers Red Bull has hired bring that institutional knowledge with them. They've seen what works and what fails. They've experienced the pressure of developing power units that need to perform flawlessly across 24 race weekends per season. They understand the difference between theoretical performance and real-world reliability. This experience advantage could prove decisive in Red Bull's first year as an engine manufacturer. While they won't have the luxury of gradual development that other manufacturers enjoyed, they will have the benefit of experienced professionals who can help them avoid the most common pitfalls. Red Bull's engine program also benefits from perfect timing. The 2026 regulations represent a reset point for all manufacturers. While established players like Mercedes and Ferrari certainly have advantages, the technical changes are significant enough that everyone will be starting partially from scratch. The 2026 power unit regulations emphasize different priorities than current engines. The increased electrical component and modified fuel requirements create opportunities for newcomers to challenge established hierarchies. Red Bull's fresh approach could actually become an advantage rather than a handicap. Moreover, Red Bull's integration advantages shouldn't be overlooked. As both the chassis, manufacturer, and engine producer, they can optimize the entire package in ways that customer teams simply cannot. This integration potential could offset any raw performance disadvantages their engines might have initially. The championship implications of Red Bull's engine program extend far beyond their own team. If Red Bull produces competitive power units immediately, it could disrupt the entire Formula One ecosystem. Teams that have relied on customer engines from established manufacturers might suddenly find themselves at a disadvantage compared to Red Bull's integrated approach. Looking at recent precedent, we've seen how quickly engine performance can shift competitive balance. Mercedes dominated the early hybrid era largely due to their superior power units. When Honda eventually developed competitive engines for Red Bull, the championship dynamics changed almost immediately. Red Bull's success with their own engines could trigger similar shifts. If they achieve both chassis and engine excellence simultaneously, other teams might find themselves struggling to match Red Bull's integrated performance advantage. The psychological impact shouldn't be underestimated either. If Red Bull succeeds with their engine program, it sends a powerful message to the entire Formula One community about what's possible with sufficient determination and resources. It could encourage other ambitious projects and reshape how teams think about vertical integration. Critics remain, of course. Many still believe that Red Bull's engine program represents overconfidence that will be exposed when racing begins. They argue that building competitive Formula One engines requires more time and experience than Red Bull's timeline allows. These concerns aren't unreasonable. Formula One history is littered with ambitious engine projects that promised much and delivered little. The technical challenges are genuine, and the margin for error in Formula One is virtually non-existent. However, the growing optimism around Red Bull's engine program suggests that something different might be happening. The combination of aggressive talent acquisition, innovative technical approaches, and perfect regulatory timing could create conditions for Red Bull to exceed everyone's expectations. As 2026 approaches, Red Bull's engine program represents one of the most fascinating storylines in modern Formula One. Whether they succeed or fail, their attempt to become a complete manufacturer team will provide valuable lessons about what's possible in contemporary motorsport. The stakes couldn't be higher. Red Bull's reputation, competitive future, and championship aspirations all depend on their ability to produce power units that can match the established manufacturers. But if the recent reports are accurate, Red Bull might not just survive this transition, they might actually thrive in ways that shock the entire Formula One world. What do you think? Can Red Bull really compete with Mercedes and Ferrari from day one? Or are they setting themselves up for a spectacular failure? Let me know your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Formula One analysis as we head toward the most unpredictable season in recent memory. What happens when the Formula One World Championship slips through your fingers by just 2 points, but the people who know racing best still crown you as the greatest driver of the season? Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories from the 2025 Formula One season that perfectly captures why sometimes being the best isn't always about crossing the finish line first. Picture this scenario. You're trailing by over 100 points in the championship. Your car isn't performing like it should. Everyone has written you off. Then you mount what could have been one of the greatest comebacks in motorsport history, only to fall short by the smallest possible margin. Most people would call that a failure. But what if I told you that failure might actually reveal something much more important about true excellence? That's exactly what happened to Max Verstappen in 2025. And the aftermath tells us everything we need to know about what separates good drivers from legendary ones. While Lando Norris celebrated his first world championship, something remarkable was happening behind the scenes that would completely flip the narrative on its head. The Formula One paddock is filled with some of the sharpest minds in motorsport. Team principals who have dedicated their lives to understanding every nuance of racing performance. These aren't casual observers or fans voting based on their favorite driver. These are the people who analyze every tenth of a second, every strategic decision, every moment of brilliance or failure throughout an entire season. And when they cast their secret ballots for who they believed was the best driver of 2025, their choice was unanimous in a way that shocked everyone. Max Verstappen didn't just win this vote, he dominated it. For the 5th consecutive year, the team bosses declared him the standout performer of the season, despite not winning the championship. Think about what that means for a moment. 8 team principals, representing different teams with different agendas and rivalries, all looked at the same season and came to the same conclusion. The driver who lost the championship by 2 points was actually the driver who performed at the highest level throughout the year. But how does something like this even happen? How does the person who doesn't win end up being considered the best? The answer lies in understanding what Verstappen accomplished during what many are calling one of the most dramatic championship fights in recent memory. Starting the season with a car that was clearly not the fastest on the grid, Verstappen found himself in an impossible position. Red Bull's dominance from previous years had evaporated, and suddenly the three-time world champion was fighting with machinery that couldn't match the pace of McLaren or other competitors. By mid-season, he was staring at a points deficit that would have ended most championship hopes. 104 points. That's the mountain Verstappen had to climb. In modern Formula One, where points are awarded so generously compared to the old days, coming back from such a massive deficit seems almost impossible. Most drivers would have accepted their fate and started planning for the following season. But this is where Verstappen's true character emerged. Instead of accepting defeat, he began what can only be described as a surgical dissection of the competition. Race after race, he extracted every possible point from a car that had no business competing for victories. He maximized every opportunity, minimized every mistake, and slowly began chipping away at what seemed like an insurmountable lead. The comeback wasn't built on luck or fortunate circumstances. It was constructed through sheer determination and an almost supernatural ability to read racing situations. Verstappen began seeing opportunities where others saw none, making moves that seemed impossible, and consistently delivering performances that exceeded what his equipment should have been capable of achieving. As the season progressed and the points gap began to shrink, something magical started happening. The pressure began shifting from Verstappen to the championship leader. While Norris had the faster car and the points advantage, Verstappen had momentum and an almost unstoppable belief that he could complete one of the greatest comebacks in sports history. The psychological warfare was subtle but devastating. Every race where Verstappen gained points, every brilliant overtake, every strategic masterclass added weight to Norris's shoulders. The hunter was becoming the hunted, and everyone in the paddock could feel the dynamic shifting. This transformation didn't go unnoticed by the people who understand racing at its deepest level. Team principals watched as Verstappen transformed what should have been a disappointing season into a masterpiece of competitive driving. They saw him adapt his driving style to extract performance from a difficult car. They witnessed him make strategic decisions that turned potential disasters into point-scoring opportunities. The climax came at Abu Dhabi, where mathematics and destiny collided in the most dramatic fashion possible. Verstappen needed to win the race and hope for specific results elsewhere to claim the championship. The pressure was immense, but he delivered a flawless performance when it mattered most, taking the victory and setting up a finale that had the entire motorsport world holding its breath. Those final calculations revealed the cruel mathematics of championship racing. Despite winning the season finale and mounting one of the most remarkable comebacks in Formula One history, Verstappen fell just 2 points short of the title. 2 points. In a season where drivers can score 25 points for a single victory, the championship was decided by the smallest possible margin. But here's where the story becomes truly fascinating. While Norris rightfully celebrated his first world championship, the team principals were already forming a different opinion about what they had witnessed. Their votes revealed something that the points table couldn't capture about the true nature of exceptional performance under pressure. When the secret ballots were counted, the result was clear. Verstappen had earned his 5th consecutive recognition as the best driver of the season according to the people who know the sport best. This wasn't a sympathy vote or a gesture of respect for a valiant effort. This was a professional assessment that performance and results don't always align in championship racing. The voting system itself adds credibility to this recognition. Team principals submit their top 10 drivers using the same point structure as the actual championship. The process is anonymous, eliminating political considerations or public pressure. These votes represent pure professional judgment about who performed at the highest level throughout the season. What makes this recognition even more significant is the company Verstappen joined and displaced. The same vote that elevated him above the actual world champion also revealed some surprising assessments of other high-profile drivers. Lewis Hamilton, one of the sport's greatest legends, didn't even crack the top 10 according to these expert opinions. Hamilton's exclusion from the top 10 represents one of the most shocking aspects of this vote. After transitioning to Ferrari with enormous expectations, his first season with the Italian team failed to meet the standards that team principals expect from a driver of his caliber. The seven-time world champion's struggle to adapt to new machinery and deliver consistent results clearly left an impression on those who voted. The contrast between public perception and professional assessment becomes even more interesting when examining other results from this vote. George Russell claimed fourth place, recognition for a season where he consistently maximized opportunities with Mercedes. Fernando Alonso earned fifth place, proving that age and experience still command respect when combined with exceptional racecraft. Perhaps most telling was Charles Leclerc's dramatic fall from third place in the previous year's vote to seventh in 2025. Despite achieving 7 podium finishes with a difficult Ferrari, his inability to challenge for victories cost him recognition among team principals. This demonstrates how these professional votes focus on performance relative to expectations and machinery, rather than absolute results. The emergence of young talents like Oliver Behrman and Isaac Hadjar in the top 10 also reveals how team principals value potential and adaptation over reputation. These drivers earned their recognition through impressive debuts and consistent improvement, rather than past achievements or marketing appeal. What this entire situation reveals about modern Formula One is fascinating. In an era where social media and instant reactions often dominate narratives, the quiet professional assessment of team principals provides a different perspective on excellence. They see beyond the headlines and point standings to evaluate the true quality of driving performance. Verstappen's recognition also highlights something important about resilience and character in professional sports. His ability to maintain exceptional standards while facing what seemed like impossible odds impressed the people who understand the psychological pressures of championship racing. They recognized that his performance under pressure exceeded what most drivers could have achieved in similar circumstances. The implications of this recognition extend beyond individual accolades. It suggests that team principals value different qualities than what casual observers might prioritize. Consistency under pressure, adaptation to difficult circumstances, and the ability to extract maximum performance from imperfect equipment clearly resonate with people who face similar challenges in their own roles. This story also demonstrates why Formula One continues to captivate audiences worldwide. The sport's complexity means that surface-level results don't always capture the full picture of what happens during a season. The gap between championship success and recognition for excellence creates narratives that extend far beyond simple wins and losses. As we look toward the future, Verstappen's fifth consecutive recognition as the best driver according to team principals cements his reputation as one of the sport's true legends. His ability to perform at the highest level regardless of circumstances has earned respect from the people who matter most in professional racing. The 2025 season will be remembered for many things, but perhaps most significantly for proving that sometimes the greatest victories don't appear on championship tables. They exist in the recognition of peers, the respect of competitors, and the quiet acknowledgement of excellence by those who understand it best.